Okay, the time is 6 o'clock and I call the April 25th meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so before we go on with our agenda, I just did want to take a couple of minutes to recognize the passing of Selectman Davis, who is a former first selectman. He was also not first selectman, he was a selectman, sorry. He was a former selectman, and he was also on a past commissioner for the Planning and Zoning Commission. And when I first was on the Board of Selectmen, he was on the Inland Wetlands Commission. So he served all three of those for the town for a while. And he was also instrumental in building the library. So just want to recognize his passing and send condolences to his family. So, and then we'll move on to citizens comment. Citizens comment. You guys are on the agenda.
Sure. And that's where we are? Okay.
No, you're going a little bit longer.
Yeah.
A little bit longer. You can go now if you want, though.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is Tony Manfredi. He and I are on the Elderly Commission, and last fall, the commission members decided to send out a survey and to find out what the elderly in town wanted to see. We'll get some paper. This is a copy of the survey that was sent out.
What?
No, sorry.
That's because you're not elderly. I got one. Yes.
You want me to make a copy?
Can I vote twice?
No, it's your, that's for you to look at.
There were almost 700 people who used the registered voting list, and there were almost 700 people over the age of 60 in town. That's the biggest voting block in town. And we sent out 672 surveys and 459 envelopes. And this was the results. I'm going to put this down, face down, because you don't want to look at it now. There's a lot of information in there.
Yes, you're not getting.
I had one, but I don't have it on me.
You want me to make a copy? I'll make a copy.
No, I've got an extra. Okay. What I did was I boiled it down to a one-page summary. I should have sent this all to you. Hey, we need a little paper and all that. Okay. And what we found was that of the 672 surveys mailed, over 41% were returned. Only one was not filled out. A scattering of others have been returned, but it was after the April 1st deadline, and they weren't included in any of the totals. It was a broad representation of ages. Several were reporting to be in their 70s and still working full time. Many own smartphones, almost 80%, and most use their apps, almost 60%. Almost as many own computers, and emails were in use by almost 80%. While slightly more than half had social media connections. Surprisingly, about 63% had no opinion regarding activities offered to seniors in town. The types of suggested activities were varied, with many expressing a need for something in town. This is all in that 9-page compilation. Of those who responded, of 130, almost 79% went to out-of-town senior centers. And what was unexpected was where they went. Plainfield, Griswold, Madison, Norwich, North Stonington, Bristol, East Line, Groton, Lisbon, and Coventry, Rhode Island. When they were asked if there was any interest in educational opportunities, maybes held sway with 45%. And I think there is an opportunity here to create or offer activities for seniors, perhaps in partnership with the school, perhaps along the line of 1-hour workshops, 4 to 4:30, 5 to 5:30, after which some attendees could go out for dinner. The town website, newsletters, and signs took up the top 3 spots as sources of information. This is something you're doing right, okay? The Friends of the Library newsletter and the library completed the top 5. If these were expanded and improved upon, they could be no or low cost options to get out more information. Facebook's dwelling in Volantown was also seen as a potential source, and a lot of people used it. Transportation showed several surprises. Most respondents still drive, 92%, and enjoy reliable transportation even into their 80s. Unfortunately, at this time, dial a ride at 61%, and a senior van at almost 60% received resounding no's for their use. Meal and food options leaned heavily towards cooking themselves or used in restaurants and takeout. Surprisingly, once again, only 4 people used Meals on Wheels, and several commented that they didn't know it was available in town. Responses to the question of whether they would like to see a senior center in town, yes at 45%, and maybes at 46% were all but tied. There were only 20 no answers. Discounts were used by relatively few and mostly at local vendors. Many were not aware of any discounts. The comment section was used vastly. It's like 3.5 pages of comments. Some caused chuckles and some didn't relate to the survey at all, but there were several nuggets that could be considered no or low cost. Examples include a way to vote, watch budget, and public meetings online. And I know you have that in place, just getting the information out. Senior tax discounts. I had the idea, and I thought about it myself. If I had 5% taken off of my property taxes, that would be about $200 in my pocket. And I know there are senior exemptions and so forth that are already in place, but this would be something that the town would add on. A booth for senior information and ideas at the farmer's market. A list of teenagers to help with snow shoveling and cleaning off cars. Information via mail, newsletter in the mail. And one suggestion was I would walk more if there were more places to stop and rest. And free beach passes for seniors. Probably only have a handful, but that was a suggestion. As a result of this, a proposal was, we came up with a proposal. We can't expect something like Brooklyn has. It's taken them years to get where they are, but it has been brought to our attention that the state is temporarily renting one of the corner spaces at the Riverside Mall. We want to propose that the town rent the largest available space as a gathering place for seniors. Even 3 afternoons a week as a start would give seniors some place to socialize. There is ample parking and it is handicapped accessible. It might be large enough for the workshops, meetings, card playing, information dissemination, and more that were mentioned in the comments. Understandably, there would be costs for equipment, supplies, utilities, etc. And perhaps the agent for the elderly could be the manager and also have an office space. And it would be a beginning. Because if you read the 9 pages, there's a lot of there should be a place in town, there should be a senior center like Griswold. No, we can't have Griswold. So that's our summation and our proposal. And not expecting an answer. Are you expecting an answer, John?
No, I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
okay. But we're open to questions or comments or.
Thank you for doing that survey. I know that was,
This is. These are the actual survey.
wow,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'll put them in the cabinet over here. But, lot of information,
Yeah.
and most of it is in that 9 pages.
And and just make sure I understand this, out of 672, you got 273 responses. That's what's there.
Mhm.
Okay.
Actually, there's a few more, some came in after the deadline, but I didn't.
Approximately
include
300.
them. Yeah.
So, but for the 40%, somewhere between 40 and 45% is probably good.
Mhm.
Okay,
Nice.
That's a.
that's an amazing response rate.
It's good for responding to surveys. Lots of people like to let you know what they think.
Nobody wanted to see info in the paper, right?
Huh?
In the newspaper, nobody asked for the newspaper.
So-
Nobody asked for information to be posted in the newspaper, not the newsletter,
No,
newspaper.
the newspaper, not the newspaper, the newsletter. They use the town signs, the town newsletter, and the town website. And dwelling in Valentine.
Mhm.
So, but it,
No, that is from our point of view, that is an incredibly important data point that you've
yes.
given us.
Yes.
Because how often at the annual town meeting do we hear, well, we put this information out, and there's always a handful of people always like, I don't use email, I don't use the internet.
Mhm.
And we're like, well, the overwhelming majority of townsfolk do. And now we've got something to counter that with saying, we need to do what, we can't serve the lowest common denominator. We've got to do what's most cost effective to hit the most people.
Go see your own public.
We're not going to forget about you, Jim.
Yeah, thank you. A great idea and so forth. I think what, as you know, from being on the Board of Education, budgets are not easy things to find that in. And looking at the school losing $98,000 next year and $1,000 after. So renting the space is a good first step, as good as it sounds, but also requiring me to ask the question, if we have a firehouse available, there's a kitchen there.
However, the firehouse, the big thing with the firehouse, the big thing with me up there is it's not handicapped accessible. Tony and I watched Joe Magario, who built that place, try to get up those stairs to the men's room with a walker. It's not handicapped accessible, and it's always used as an emergency shelter in storms or hurricanes or whatever. And the firemen will say, "Oh well, we'll be glad to help you out and around and go through the bay." In a snowstorm, in a hurricane, no. And then when you get to the men's room, you can't get in because of the way a sink or something is set up there. But my husband, he's a good example. Somebody helped him go through the bay, get to the men's room. He couldn't get his scooter in to reach the handicapped accessible stall because it was blocked by whatever is there. I think it's a sink. So they actually have to go in to physically pick up and move the scooter.
When we're doing plans for the firehouse, these are.
I'm surprised there hasn't been an ADA complaint yet. Because it's, I don't know how much it's used for parties, weddings, whatever now. I can see a wedding happening there and you've got great grandma or grandpa and they can't get to the restrooms because of the stairs. I even suggested when I was a member, you look at those short stair guides with a ramp that you can put a wheelchair on.
I don't think the hallway and stairwell is wide enough to do.
They told me that.
I was, and these help to sharpen your argument. That's why I'm asking these questions, they're just program.
I'm sorry, I can't hear well.
I'm asking these questions to help sharpen your argument. and get a better understanding.
Yeah.
So when we were both on the Board of Education, in addition to the school, we built, I think, 4 extra classrooms at that time, anticipation, swelling school enrollment, and in fact, school enrollment's declined 300 million in school right now, 284. They have space in the building. Would that be space that we could come to some accommodation where the seniors could use it? Because there are bathrooms right in the room. Thinking new wing. Would that be, would that be an option?
The pre-K and K one?
Yes.
So you're suggesting a senior center in there?
Perhaps.
Or at least use the rooms as you're suggesting to use Riverwalk, because that would not be an increase to the budget. Which would
Well,
be the
there
challenge.
is already a line item for elderly, I don't know what what's name, but it's, and there's approximate, there's a little over 39,000 in there now. So some of that, I know the seniors group that meets at the firehouse, they requested $4,000. Right, well, if they didn't have, if they had a place of their own, they might not need all of that $4,000, and I don't know what else is included
The
in
Meals on Wheels are included in that, the senior transportation is included in that.
being dial-a-ride.
Yep, the dial-a-ride, we have like 8 people, I think, using it now.
But 8 out of 672.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have the agent for the elderly's salaries included in that. And
Well, I'm just saying that there's already a line item in the budget. I'm not saying double it, but
I think what would strengthen the argument most is the first question is, how much would it cost? You know what I mean? Like, let's ask Town Pizza, how much would it cost to rent the place? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you really can't go any further until you have that, you know, 'cause it may be better than you think, or it may be worse. You can't even, you know, it's a great start, but until you know the cost, you don't know whether you can afford it or not.
well, it's a proposal only, it's not a demand.
Mhm.
You know, other ideas are
It's
certainly.
great work. I commend you for doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't mean that as a negative. I mean that it could be like, oh, it's not, you know, we're all thinking it's a huge amount, and maybe it's not, you know what I mean? So maybe it's affordable. I don't know.
Well, I'm not familiar with what is offered in the program in various senior centers away from us, Coventry, Plainfield, so forth. So what do they do? What activities?
What do they do at other senior centers? Grizzled offers all kinds of things, like games, art, music, dancing.
Wi-Fi.
Well,
Was it,
Internet.
where you,
oh.
I saw a couple of women
Yeah.
bowling.
Oh,
Yeah,
And they also offer transportation down to Lisbon Landing. They have a foot doctor that comes in. They also do all of their things like energy assistance, rent assistance, and what's Meals on Wheels. And so, but
and there's also physical activities, because I know that there's cardio drumming,
Yep.
which is apparently very popular.
mhm.
So
Yoga, Tai Chi. They also have a full kitchen. I guess they provide meals. I guess, I don't know if they qualify or they have to sign up for it, but they do have a full kitchen there with a cafeteria.
Is this a once a week thing or is it?
I think it's daily.
daily.
Monday through Friday.
But like I said, it's taken them years
yet.
to get to that point.
Mhm.
And they have a brand new building. We're not asking for a building, we're just asking to rent a place.
So you envision this as being something that operates 6 days a week?
no, wasn't he asked 2 or 3 days a week just to get something started?
But the original suggestion in the survey was 3 days a week, 1 to 4.
Do any of the other community facilities meet the ADA needs? I've never been to the Catholic church facility.
They all do.
Would that be if money's no more problem? Could maybe using the parish facility or using fellowship or the Baptist church, any of them with that world?
They all have quite a few activities of their own, and that was something
So the Baptist church, because we use that facility for scouting, their calendar is pretty full.
mhm.
Um,
Living Word,
Living Word, doesn't typically let any outside activities use the facility. Because they've been asked to use their facility for something in the past. So
and the
it's
Catholic,
for their use only.
and the Catholic Church, their parish center is a former parsonage here. And I don't know about ADA compliance, seeing that maybe
It is, so Ollie is there regularly Sundays, and it is very difficult to get around. So I would not, there's ramps, so you've got access, but once you get inside, if there's more than a couple of people, it becomes a challenge. You've got people using wheelchairs or walkers or canes. It would probably require work. So
And-
Baptist Church, if there was calendar available, that's probably the best out of the 3 churches in town.
What about the Grange?
Hmm?
The Grange, Econ Grange, I mean, that.
Well, since it's in Sterling,
It's actually half in Voluntown, half in Sterling, so. The parking lots in Voluntown,
oh, really?
yeah.
Because there, everything is on one floor, and you do have one larger room, also have a kitchen, meals up there. Yeah, separate, a gender identifying appropriate bathrooms.
I know
As a place
I
to
rented
start.
the hall for a baby shower at the time, I can't remember, it was years ago. And I'm sure if you're asking to use it even 3 days a week, they're gonna ask for some kind of rent anyway. Probably not as much as at the mall. I just figured the mall is more centrally located too.
I understand, does Sterling have a senior center?
Yes. I think their senior center is in the school, the old school,
Right.
which of course would be ADA compliant.
Okay, that's some questions to ask. Thank you for the
Thank
information.
you.
Yep, like I said, I'll leave this in the.
Wow.
So,
Can you give me the other document?
I condensed it as much as I could in there.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and not just thank you, but great job on this.
So except for the. How many registered voters do we have?
It was a little over 1,700,
So
and this went to
1,000.
almost 700.
So 40-ish%.
Easy rule. We are.
For the voting block, yes.
I voted last time around, so, goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dan.
This is the voting this year.
Okay.
Next.
Approval of minutes.
So
We're here.
I think
All in favor? So the minutes of the April 11th meeting have been approved.
the shortest meeting.
All right. Oh, wait, Diana.
Good night.
Diana.
Diana,
Hey. They're having a, health and wellness fair at the Griswold, Community Center for Seniors. So,
That reminds me. We were told that Tina Powell was going to attend our last meeting and she didn't, because she wants money from the town, from Town, for the people who are joining them. Because she says it's extra supplies, extra program, extra, and she feels that Town should come in. Well, it's only like, what, 20 people or something like that. And the general consensus was that should be for those people. Not come town to voluntarily ask me.
What's your opinion?
My opinion, Voluntown's taxes should stay in Voluntown. If you're going to do something for seniors, should be.
Thank you.
Not messing with that.
No, would Valentine be against? Okay, depending upon what they're asking for in compensation. Would Valentine be willing to, I don't know, support a couple of bucks per person?
Well, that's what I put a call into the first selectman over in Griswold, and she was gonna get back to me with an amount. Because like, if that's another thing where we don't really know what we're looking at, because, they do provide a lot of services for seniors over there, and I like the fact that they are willing to keep working with our seniors over there, because we don't have the staff here to help people with, Medicare applications and social service needs and all of that stuff. Yeah, it's like it's kind of like a regionalizing is what we're looking for, because like Diana said, we're not gonna be able to have, we can't have what they have. But when we have the senior van, we'll be able to transport people there. We'll be able to, like, more people will go, I think more people go from town if they know what's available.
Well, are they current, do you know if they're currently charging?
They're currently not, the first year that they're open, they didn't charge anybody, like the people in Griswold aren't paying and the people in Valentine aren't paying, but what they're gonna do is they are gonna start charging, and the taxes that Griswold residents pay will offset, there'll be like a fee per person, but the taxes that the Griswold residents pay are gonna offset what their cost is because their taxes are paid.
So there'll be a resident rate and
And
an out of town rate.
right, and I don't know how high that out of town rate's gonna be, but that's what I'm talking. That's what I'm talking to Griswold about, is like how much, like what are they looking at per person, and how much can the town contribute to offset the cost for ours?
Now, the out of town rate, is that gonna be the same for people who say come from Norwich?
Yes.
Okay.
So it would be, that's what they'd be looking at, but for Voluntown, if we wanted to offset that cost for our residents and compensate for the services that they provide, especially for the social service part of it, we would give them like a lump. We're still working out the details.
If Voluntown is pretty much obliged to go, like you said, maybe a regional type center up here with
Yeah,
offering, is there anything that we could get from the state to say, hey, we don't have the facilities, we don't have the funds to have our own center?
right.
Can you offset what they're asking?
Right, and that's another thing that that's what I had in my correspondence today, which is next, is the grant. I talked to you guys about it at the elderly meeting. There's a, part of the ARP, it's a one-time fund from the state for its actual ARPA funds that were given to go towards senior programs. And every town gets an amount to go towards their senior center, and it has to be a senior center that's established now. And it has to be a senior center that provides service. It has to be a 501c3 senior center. We don't have one of those in Voluntown. But we can give the money to a neighboring senior center that we have to have like some sort of agreement with. And that amounts like $8,000. So that's another thing that I've been, I'm still waiting for that one. So that would be the obvious one that I would want to work on the funding.
But that's definitely just a one-time.
It's a one-time thing. It's leftover ARPA funds from COVID that they're just giving a one-time thing for seniors. So, but yeah, it's the one. But I am waiting to hear back, and it'll be when I
That is just for already established, correct?
for the already established senior center.
Right, like we couldn't establish,
Oh, this money has to be to something that's already established.
yeah,
So that's part of the announcement was that grant. And the senior day that Diana has the flyer for, that'll be on the website and the newsletter. That's all I have. It's the rest of we just had a public works report. We had a company in last week and the week before that was working with public works. They sucked out all the drains in town. So,
All,
hadn't been done in a while. So that was good. I don't know if they did any at the school, but they also, were over at the housing authority. I think they only have drain at the housing authority for their own drains and the school and they but we did all the ones not the ones on state roads, just the ones on.
so you're like one of the wellness core?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you're to throw all the sleeves.
Yep, they all got sucked up. And that's what we're working on for public works. We're working on the budget, obviously the budget, going through, on that. And we're on the finance report. It's the budget.
Insurance budget, draft budget, yep.
Has some updates as far as the state budget goes. The appropriations budget was approved out of appropriations, and that has a hold harmless for the ECS fund, so that doesn't, if that gets the governor still has to like, they still have to agree on passing something, but the one that the appropriations committee approved does not have any ECS cuts, so that's what we're hoping goes through.
There's almost a $500 million stuff between that.
How big?
500.
It's a higher plan, and they said it was probably the biggest budget increase, like, probably something. But I have written stuff on the updates in the budget. Sort of, and tomorrow, CCM is doing a news conference to go for the public schools to make sure the ECS is held harmless and to kick off their support for state aid schools tomorrow morning.
That's all.
And then, sorry for that, Julie wants to explain it.
All right, so this year's budget, one of the two big things is the town planner. We've been paying him through the ARPA funds. So we spoke to planning and zoning, and they've agreed to pay for half of his cost for the next budget year, and the board of
So
selection for the other half. Huh?
It'll be against their sub budget.
So half would be in the board of selectmen and half would be in the planning and zoning. Biggest increases or whatever that we were looking at. Basic cost of living stuff, printing services, printing the checks, printing the tax bills, the assessors, all the printing for that. We have a truck lease increase for there. I have a quote for the diesel for $3.19, which is less than last year, so that's probably one of the only things that will go down.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
Jump on
So yeah,
That's what we said, we're just gonna take it.
it. Just jump on it.
so most of any of the changes, there's been quite a few changes, like some of the telephone went down, some of the electricity, I've got them on a 14 cents for the next 20 months. So we should remain steady with the electric for the next year. Unless that changes and they go down, then I can switch it to a different one, but right now that's where we're at. The ECS, like she said, the hold harmless. So right now, the school is still trying to work out theirs. They haven't finished their budget yet. But if at worst case, we're thinking about it's 0.1, 0.11 increase for our mill rate. Which is still, you know, a work in progress. I still haven't heard back from the fire department. I'm waiting to hear what their budget's gonna be. So right now I don't have any increase or any changes for that.
The mills, how much now? 220?
What's the mill now?
Yeah.
27.77.
No, what is a mill worth?
A mill,
Rate.
Yep. It will be. So we did get an increase in the grand list. We got an increase of about 5 million. So that's helped it. Some of the revenues, with Tony's, obviously, he's been working on investing all the money. So we're getting an extra 100,000 in, revenue there. Just from him investing in,
Just have mill saves right there.
yeah, so.
Problem with that next year.
So, and he's projecting that, and he's looking into that. So one of the things he's looking at is taking it out of some of the short-term funds and putting them into something that's a little still liquid, but a little bit, you know.
Crypto.
No, there's actually very specific rules about getting crypto and town taxpayers' money, so that's probably no. So he's looking at other ideas, and you know, a little bit more, you know, further out, knowing that the rates are probably going to go down eventually, and maybe we can do subsidy CDs or something else. So he's looking into that.
5.25%.
So some of it has to be, you know, liquid enough to gain access to it. You know, so you can't stack it into a 5-year CD that we can't touch or anything like that. It has to be. What's up?
Yeah, an academic. So treasury bills are maturities 1 year or less.
Okay.
Options 6 months per year.
Okay.
Generally, but now since we're borrowing so much money. And it's maturity. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
That's
so I mean, we do have increases obviously, but we you know, I think
we've offset some.
we've done, yeah, we've been working a lot on trying to increase the revenue to offset some of that. So kudos to Tony for that. So we've been consolidating like all the bank accounts and different things like that, and doing a bunch of different things between the Board of Ed and us to try to pool the cash more. So the more cash we have, we can invest. So we've changed a lot of our policies, procedures, a lot of different things like that, just so we can do that. So the whole finance group, I think, has done a great job.
We have a strong finance team right now.
Just say those words again. We have a finance team.
Yes, that's
That's the big change right there.
Yeah.
it's been a great collaboration between the school and us. So
Yeah.
it's all of us. It's not.
Building.
So that's what I'm projecting right now. I mean, you guys can go over it, see if there's anything. One of the other changes we made, we don't have a line item for town engineering. Obviously more and more of the projects are requiring engineering. A lot of the grants we want to put out for, we can't put in for the grants without engineering plans. So that might be one cost that we would have to actually pay for out of the budget, but in return, you can put for like the trip. So like there's a trip grant we're looking for. We need to have engineered plans, and it's for the sidewalks, to complete the sidewalks out here. In order to do that, we have to have the plans to put in for the grant. So, and one of the other appropriations committee doubled the amount of the trip grants. So there's even more money out there to get. So we have a proposal out there. That's one of the things the plan is working on, is to get one of those trip grants for us. But in order to do that, we have to have engineered services. So that's one of the other line items. We've been kind of using for professional services whenever we needed engineering. So I just kind of made it a little bit more official, took it out of there, put it into town and put a specific line item just for engineering service.
For the town planner, just so we've got the data for the town
Mhm.
meeting, you have how much total grants the town planner has?
Put in for,
dollars?
I have it for last year and John and I are working together right now to have that for the
Right,
budget.
because I think that's gonna be a
Mhm.
basically a slam dunk on, yes, we've got these two increases here, but this is how much more has been brought.
These are all the other grants we put in.
They
Yeah,
all did.
absolutely.
John's firm more than pays for itself,
Oh, absolutely. It's
so.
Exactly.
paid for itself. Some of them are, well, the bridge alone, it's the first one, there's a $2 million grant it got for us.
Yeah.
And helped to negotiate them to pay the 20% too, so the town didn't have to pay for that 20%, so that was a kudos for him too.
Any questions?
So, I mean, the school's budget is still a work in progress, they won't have their final number. So they made some changes and then they made changes again afterwards, so I don't have the final number, so the mill rate will still,
Yeah, because you
Still
have in
fluctuate.
your packet the school budget too. The actual line item budget is what they had at their, what was approved at their last meeting. But the cover letter is a work in progress and they're actually now at a higher increase than they have on their budget. It's still a work in progress for them, but they won't know their amount of, beginning of May, probably on that was.
yeah, so the biggest thing right now is waiting for the state to pass their budget, so we know what our revenue is gonna be.
We know if we're gonna use the ECS funds or not, and that'll make a difference too. And
That was what, 98K?
95,
So, or something.
but I was at a meeting, last week where the, state treasurer, Scanlon, I think Scanlon. He spoke and they said with all the, well, with inflation, their sales tax, revenue was obviously very good. They've gotten extra and one of the biggest things they did in 2017, and this is where a lot of it started, where everything was gonna be cut like crazy. He said that was the first time he'd seen both parties sit down together and bang out some changes. And because of those changes, they've been able to, refinance a lot of their debt, refinance their pensions, so that it has a lower rate, so when they're paying things, so, anything extra from the, rainy day fund over a certain percentage now has to go towards paying down their pensions. So they've done a lot of changes there, and they've got a lot of extra money coming in from sales tax, so some of that might go towards the towns as well. But he's saying like, don't budget for that because it's not a guarantee, we'll give it to you, so there's a lot of things they've done there, so because inflation and whatnot, their revenues were higher than expected, so there is a chance for them to be able to, have a
Fully
higher
finance.
budget. Yeah. Yeah, because of that, because their revenues have been better. So it was a year or two anyways, until the next downturn, and everybody cuts everything again.
State pension plans in terrible shape.
Mhm.
Don't have to be able to figure it out. That's it. It's their healthcare. It's the real problem.
Mhm.
It's probably almost 2.5 times just on an annual basis. But no money's in it.
Yeah, he gave us the date, I wrote it down somewhere, that nothing had been paid towards the pension from the like 70s or something, like, it was ridiculous, that they'd never put any money towards it. It's like 19, I remember, I wrote it down somewhere, 1970s.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so you have a pension for however many years and never funded it, like, I don't even know how you do that, how do you have a pension that you don't put money towards? Yeah. Isn't that like a, what you call it, is that a scheme, what I mean, take money from Rob Peter to pay Paul?
That's
Pretty much.
That's how government works.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing, Julie.
So as far as the timeline goes, we're still looking at having the town meeting at the end of May. So hopefully within the next, like, first 2 weeks of May, we'll have possibly the first week. of next.
So that means we're gonna set the public hearing tonight.
What's the time limit?
Good question. So I have to have it in like 3 or 4 days to the paper, and then it's 5, so minimum 10 days.
Before the town meeting?
For just the, don't we have to put it in, do we have to
Notification.
put the public, yeah, we have to put the public hearing in the paper too.
Did we do the public hearing? Did we do it at the same time as the town meeting last year?
We did not,
Yeah,
Can they be at the same time? I
I
thought
don't
they have to
know.
be separate.
I don't know.
a good question. We've always done it separate,
I don't know if we have to.
right?
Because
We've done other town meetings where we've had the,
we've always had the.
public hearing beforehand and then do it.
We were starting to do the public hearing before because everyone's there and that's gonna vote, so.
The school isn't having their final public hearing for their budget till May 11th, so obviously we can't even estimate what our mill rate's gonna be until we get theirs. So if we have our public hearing beforehand, we can go over what our expenses are, but we can't go over what the mill rate will be.
So if we can figure something out timeline wise, we'll know closer. What's the state looking at?
Right, that's the one. I don't even know when they're gonna pass theirs, so it's good. We should have everything planned now. We should have it all booked now, but I'm not gonna have any numbers until,
The state.
Okay, we can just
Um,
hold off on that and we can always be ready to do a special meeting.
I would suggest doing the, at least. So if they're having theirs May 11th, I would at least think about doing one 16th. Cause our next meeting is May 9th. But I won't have the school stuff. Then, so we can plan a
We can still do the
tentative,
town,
huh?
we can still do the town side of the budget.
Mm-hmm. Which is usually what we do at our public hearing anyways. It's just ours. So I would suggest
So-
doing the 16th.
Yeah, why don't we just vote on that now?
Yeah.
Set the public hearing for the 16th, so special meeting.
Yeah.
Since we need 10 days or 10 business days for a notification.
So if I send it to the paper like on Monday, they'll publish it by like Wednesday or Thursday.
What's the
And then it
town
has to be
meeting?
published 5 days before you can have it. So if it's Thursday. Let's see, so. So I'd have to have like probably the week before. So I'd have to send it at the very latest to May 8th to have it on the 16th.
Right, our next meeting is the 9th.
Yeah, because then it wouldn't even get in the paper in time. So we would have to book it now. Or we'd have to do it,
And if we need to change it, we can change it.
or we'd have to do it on the 23rd and then you're doing like June 6th for the town meeting.
On this.
Which is probably, June 6th would be that probably absolute latest you can do the town meeting, otherwise the bills will be late. Usually we've done it with Giselle, like the first couple days, like even June 6th is pushing it for her, but I'll have to ask her the exact date, but
We have Memorial Day weekend.
so you can publish for the 16th, the public hearing, and think about doing the town meeting tentatively for the 30th.
It's the day after,
Yeah, it's always the day after Memorial Day. Happens every year.
when
So-
we have the meeting.
You'd have to do it the 23rd or the 30th.
6 o'clock,
30th.
16 for the hearing,
Oh, yeah, the 16th, I said.
or do you want to do 7 before driving home?
We normally do 7.
That's for the public hearing.
So hearing. Town meeting.
So we're going on 6 for the hearing, 7 PM for the meeting.
What day? 23rd or the 30th? Huh?
Because we already have our selectmen at 6 and we can record it, so we can watch it down.
Gotcha.
For the meetings, the town meetings, we always have at 7. Because
For that, like you said.
the board of
People
selectmen,
getting home.
yeah. May 30th.
May 30th. You okay with the day after Memorial Day?
Every year I say no, because it's like hard to get stuff done. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's cutting it too close.
Yeah, I think June is too close for her to tell, even the 30th, she's probably not gonna be happy with.
So the 16th, the hearing at 6 PM.
Yeah.
And the following week, which is our regular select meeting, 6 o'clock, and the 7th.
No, 23rd or 30th.
30th,
Okay, we have 4 meetings then.
Budget time.
it's budget, it's what happened. Okay. Anything else about the meeting? Anything else about the budget? No. ARPA funds. Do you know the exact amount that we have to appropriate for the?
Yeah, let me see. No, it's not on this one. I forget my computer. We have to do the fire.
Yeah.
200,000, and then it was it the rec commission? Okay.
Was that for the design so far?
What we were going through the ARPA fund stuff the other day, and we never voted to appropriate the money to the fire station improvement. So we just have to appropriate it.
And for the recognition, it's the tree complex design.
I don't know.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Right, I'm pointing at the. Yeah, that's right.
So we just needed the to appropriate. When we were doing before the ARPA.
Yeah, the treasury, we have to do our reporting to the treasury of what we spent on the ARPA funds. And so it's the Recreation Commission, we had, there's 100,000 and then the 200,000 for the public safety.
So we need a motion to appropriate $100,000 of the ARPA funds to the, the Gate Street Recreation, Master Complex plan. And then to appropriate $200,000 to the Valentine Fire Station.
So moved.
Second, 100K to rec, 200K to fire.
Is there any discussion on that? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, the ARPA funds have been out.
We need to spend that money because Republicans want to take it back.
Yeah, they do. There's a lot of them out there that are trying to take back the ARPA funds. There's a lot of talk about trying
Is
to
this
claw back the money.
Debt ceiling negotiation?
Yes.
There's
So
no
the
update.
faster you spend it, the better, because
Yeah.
then they can't claw back if it's already spent and appropriated.
No No updates on the church well project. Ordinances. Do we want to do these?
That's the blight ordinance.
No,
We are waiting for you. And it's not anti-blight, because that's not anti-anything, it's blight for fate.
boys, okay.
We already have it.
Got it.
So where do we stand on this
Do we want to read it word for word? Or do we want to just have a discussion?
discussion?
I'll go last, I'm for it, so. Those are what we go last.
I am for it, and I'm for, rather than locking ourselves in, I am for having a sunset provision so we can basically see what works. Does not work.
I don't think that, I don't know how, because it has to be an ordinance, so I don't know if you can like pass an ordinance. And we'd have
With
to
an
vote.
expiration.
No, I don't know.
Ask the attorney,
Yeah, I can ask the attorney.
because,
Yeah.
you know, one of the concerns that you've had as well, future is how you enforce this thing.
That's my biggest concern is I just don't see it being enforceable at all. Because there's like, we would have to,
We would have to have the,
we'd have to have someone enforcing, they would have to like give the violation. If the person refuses to comply, which we already have things in line to do that. And we have people that refuse to comply and they get fines and they still don't comply. We would have to have like the only way to do it in a workable way is to have like another committee that's like the blight enforcement committee that like public review of it. And I honestly don't know, because the places where it works, that's what they have. Like, I don't think we can't even get people to be on committees now, never mind, who's gonna wanna be on blight enforcement committee?
I already
Like, no
have
one.
two people.
Yeah.
That doesn't good.
that, this is something that may attract people.
Because that's what you would need, something set up like that for a review committee of people, like, where do people think they can test that they have what? So,
And the fines that we have defined, are they, do they just wind up as mechanics liens if they don't pay? Or is it a tax lien if they don't pay?
the tax lien costs, will cost the town money to do, because you actually have to go to court to put a lien on a property, it's like a court thing, so you have to pay to do that. So, you're gonna wanna wait for it to get to be a decent amount before you pursue that. So,
Payback is not until property sells,
right,
which. pretty
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Well, I hope that we never actually have to get to that. Hope that within a 90 day period, if it's extended by another 60 days. Person feels that a person would understand, you know what, I'll just call Billy Bob up and throw the sofa in the back of his pickup truck, take it up.
but we also have to understand too that in instances, like we already have things in town where people can get fined and citations if they have for zoning violations of like I had an instance in town where the person's actually come in like crying and upset because they can't afford to pay anyone to pick up their mess. They work all the time. They can't take time out of work to pick up all of their mess. So how do you
Is that the rat house you're talking about?
know this is different? So, but how do you say, oh, it's okay for that person because of all their circumstances, but not for someone else? Like, it's just hard. You have to be able to.
You have to enforce
it.
consistent.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we
But
open
there are
ourselves to
people that
liability. We don't
There
enforce
are
consistent.
people that are in the situation that can't afford it. So it's another burden you're putting on.
Well, the other thing as well too, the blight complaint has to be filed with people, and as John had mentioned weeks ago, there's always a risk that people use this as a club.
I don't like my
I
neighbor.
don't like my neighbor, so I'm going down,
Right.
filing a complaint.
Mm.
So I think having a fee, filing someone $50. That would hopefully call that sort of a problem if you decide you want to make it miserable. And you have to pay $600 in fees for the monthly aggravation that you want to apply to this person. People won't do that. But if nobody files it, like nobody complains about the sofa and the other stuff that's across the street from the post office. Fine.
I don't know if you can
So
charge
the
people.
Wood family can just keep it there forever.
I don't know if you can charge people to file it.
Let's find out news. And as far as filing the lien at $100 a day, after 150 days, if somebody hasn't done it, I believe it's retroactive. And depending on how the ordinance is written. If not, at the end of the year, once a year you go in, filing a $36,500 lien on the house. And it's not a matter of you're going after people and saying you have to paint your door red, you can't have clothesline in front of your yard.
It's not an HOA.
But you can't have 5 derelict pickup trucks in your backyard. Because the ordinance says you can have 1. And if they're 2 vehicles, they have to be. And I talked to some people down in Town Tavern last night. Hockey game. And there were people that had lived back in the 70s. And it used to be a lovely place. And they just run it. They've made a choice to basically be bad neighbors. And at some point, you have to be able to draw a line and say, you know what, I'm not for government money on my own. But there's a reason why you have guardrails and median strips, so you're not driving your car this way. The largest single investment every person in town is probably their home.
Oh, okay.
I believe in property rights, but your property right also has a property responsibility. That's the community and your neighbors. And putting junk cars in your front yard, sofas in your front yard, throwing your trash out the window like the rat house. That's not. So I understand that you have a concern about the ordinance or something. Really hoping that we don't get that.
And when it gets to situations like the rat house was, that's Department of Health, like there's the Department of Health already has steps that we took care of that work to get rid of that problem, but you can't. They take steps, they don't happen right away, and that's how this is gonna work too. It's just because we have the ordinance doesn't mean it's gonna all of a sudden make everything different. There's steps in the ordinance that are gonna take time.
But we've got to do something. Is the point. We can't just keep saying can't do anything because it's too hard. So that's why if we can do a sunset provision, even if we can't do a sunset provision on this.
Sure, because maybe this takes a wrong turn. Maybe the wrong people get on the board, so forth, so on, and it turns into a couple.
And we can reevaluate the next board. Will
have to reauthorize the statute.
All right, I'll find out about that. I'll get back to you.
I would just suggest if you're gonna have this at the town meeting, again, our timeline is pretty tight, so it needs to be passed at a Board of Selectmen's meeting either by the next meeting or at the public hearing. You're gonna have to have a special meeting after that. So I would say by the 15th, you'll have to have decided yes or no whether you're gonna do this. So
Yeah, I'll get all those questions to the attorney and have.
So for our next meeting on the 9th, that you have to make a decision on that.
any ordinances you want on the public or on the town meeting should be done by the 8th.
Yeah. So far, we just have one, another time. Okay. So, anything else?
On ordinances.
Okay. Portia Bridge, there's no changes. Municipal ISP committee, there was actually a meeting today that it was about possible funding for broadband stuff. I sent it to you a while ago.
Okay, I'll look at that and go from there.
Gate Street, No update. Municipal complex, no update. Fire station, no update. EDC appointment. We have an appointment recommendation
EDC.
for the EDC. Pam DeVoe. With Pam Delaney would like to be appointed to the EDC and so I just need to
Make a motion to appoint Van Blaney.
I'll second
this is an alternate position.
that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good, so Pam Delaney.
I know she runs a couple businesses, so. You got a vested interest.
All right, traffic authority. I gave you guys a packet, did I go to you?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
All right, so we are the traffic authority for the town of Allentown. Couple of things have come up for requests. That's what I gave you is just like an informational packet about the traffic authority. A lot of it's links that you would have to look up for more information, but just basic. Is if the traffic, the first page is the most informative. It just tells us what our responsibilities are versus the DOT and
Those are all the acronyms are.
yeah, at the top. I'm like Ostra. All the different parts of the state. So a couple of things have come up. One being we had a resident, I just talked to the DOT today, contact the commissioner of the DOT about the truck traffic on 138. And he requested that the state put a no through truck sign.
On 138. I know who the
So
Well, I've heard a lot of complaints.
the DOT that person I talked to today, he said that his name's Joe Olet, who's the regional partnership here. He said that if there's going to be change requests to any signage on the state roads, that has to be approved first by the local traffic authority, and then the local traffic authority would submit that request to the state. So
To Osta,
yeah.
but no to the trucks.
So I did talk to him about the no thing, and he said that the odds of that happening. He said first of all, the board is likely to have to send that request and not a resident. And the odds of that happening on this road are slim to none. I spoke to him about the Jake brakes because that's another problem too. And I asked about the Jake brakes on it, which I've asked in the past before and was told no. But I did get a better explanation about it this time. That Jake brakes are already. There's already laws about using Jake brakes within a certain number of feet from houses, edges, widths of roads, noise levels. He said the noise that the brakes make is usually not the actual brakes making the noise, it's the mufflers making the noise, and that's a violation in itself because they're supposed to have certain muffler noise standards. So he said putting up a sign that says no Jake's brakes, no Jake brakes is like putting up a sign like, I don't know, something.
No
else.
shooting up heroin here.
Yeah, or no.
gun free zone.
Yeah. Yeah, like signs like that. So they're like putting up signs that are obviously like we can do that anyway. So he didn't recommend that either. But the one thing I did talk to him about that I think that we could have a chance to act on is, I don't know if you've noticed, but new weight restrictions have been put up on 138.
Yeah. 22 tons.
The 22 tons, and sent me like pictures of I told him that for a while, it was noticeable that the truck traffic had gone down for a bit, between the tolls, like when the tolls stopped happening in Rhode Island and when those weight limit things went up. It did seem like the truck traffic slowed down, but it's starting to pick up again. I've noticed, like within the past month, we've already had a couple instances of like right out here with the.
With Google Maps telling them to make that turn around the
It
clock
happened
again.
like twice in like 2 days,
Mhm.
so it's all been happening again. But
When they do, they're coming down 138.
they-
Coming down Church Street and the map app is telling them to make a right turn. 18-wheeler from Church Street.
So instead of going straight, they make them come down, take the left and then go down Church Street and then, you know,
on the rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Albert.
instead of just going straight.
So
Stupidest thing ever.
he did say one of the things that we could do is.
So how do we file a formal complaint with Google?
Yeah.
Google Maps.
There is a way. I don't
There
know.
is, and, but as a government entity, not as an individual, because the individual thing goes nowhere, because I've been fighting that for 4 years.
Oh, I have too, because they have my office under the gas tank that Sunny on Google Maps. That's where my office is. It's like at the gas tank.
I will take that one first.
And Garmin also, shoot through, Church Street as well too. And I think it's the algorithm that finds a scoring mechanism. You know, post office is there, it's Main Street.
Yeah.
You should always take the larger road.
So,
Maybe that explains why that truck got stuck on bridge
right.
at North Shore.
Probably,
But,
yeah.
one of the things we can do is we can, he gave me the contact information for Connecticut State Police and the DMV Commercial Vehicle Safety Division. He said they both have enforcement units, with portable scales. So if we, noted, if we wanted to put in a letter to the state police and the DMV Commercial Vehicle Safety Division and let them know that there's obvious violations of the weight limits, if they wanted to set up a weigh station, like temporary, to see if they can find violations. Last time they had the truck division here for violations, they made a decent amount of money, so
When was last one?
it was a while ago. So, just a couple of-
We should ask them to come up at least once a year.
Right.
Everybody's trying to keep the toll out road out.
Yeah. So we can do that. If that's agreeable,
For 6 months.
I can reach out to them to say.
Just, then I know it's a waste of effort, but for that resident across the street. You know, we heard some complaints, you know, there's nothing really that. He has gone as far as asking the commissioner. That only the selectmen can push. But he's surprised to say, can you ban truck traffic down? And so we try, you know, or inform them, course of action. We made the effort, here's the letter, sorry, we
Right.
tried. But just to ignore his concern.
All right, that's why I'm suggesting the other options, because it's not ignoring, it's recognizing that the concerns are, but finding a way that's actually could possibly work to remedy
Sure.
it. Computer
Truck scale sounds
requirements.
great, but at least to ask them, ban truck traffic on 138.
Formally.
That's what, formally,
Yeah.
that's what he wants. We know we're gonna get turned down, but it's what the guy said. We asked, we did what you asked us to do.
Right.
And here's the official no. And they laughed at us, but we heard, because people, it's a matter of respect, you know, you're not hearing somebody, I mean, that guy. Was almost hit by a truck, he said, da, 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 da. Okay, we heard it, so. We go through the motions, obviously.
Right.
Being
Well, I
told
will
no.
tell them, like, I will be honest, like, I will put a letter to them and say, I don't feel comfortable asking them not to put trucks through town. I don't wanna ask
But a formal letter to dot.posta@ct.gov.
I will send a letter to tell them that there is dangerous situation with the size of vehicles that are going down at high speeds and, you know, I think it's like 25 to 30 coming down, so
30.
they obviously can't redeploy, we can have 25.
It's definitely more people speed.
Yeah,
But I feel
and when
more,
people ask us to contact state troopers and have them set up a speed trap, and 80% of the people the troopers catch are on town
Yeah.
residents.
And that's why I always tell everybody, you know what, just do the speed limit, the slow traffic down behind
Oh, yeah?
you. You're already right under your ass, like slow money.
Oh, no, I hit that, I do that, because we keep hearing about this. I hit the 30-mile-an-hour zone and it's people stacking up behind me. And I'm like, I'm doing my job.
so the other thing is, Church Street, for a sign on Church Street. Someone told me that there are signs that say like trailer trucks or 18-wheelers, like,
No through truck traffic. Yeah, I don't know, all buildings do it.
yeah.
Church Street is a town
No
road,
buses,
right?
no trucks.
Church
Stop.
Street is a town road, so we can put signs on there that we want. The only thing we have to do is we can't put a sign up that we know is gonna be violated. Just like I don't wanna ask that no trucks to go through and I know they could say, fire they already told me that. That's not this. But they do get delivery trucks at package store now, and they're not
Right,
package
but-
trucks, they're like box trucks, so that's why I'm trying.
But even if the package store had an 18-wheeler delivery,
They
that's, no, but if they did, that's still legit, because that's not a through truck. That's a truck that has to take that road to get there.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be a violation, it's just all the 18-wheelers that want to take out the flower garden and the clock.
Okay. Oh, wait. Look at our little sign, no through trucks still have to go to Osta even on the town.
Yep.
Okay, so I can request that anyway. Do we wanna make a motion for that?
So moved.
I second the motion for no through trucks on Church Street and send a letter to Oakland. If you say so.
Alright, so the one for Church Street, the other one is for Bennett Circle. Now, apparently on Bennett Circle, I've heard from residents and also from Public Works that at some point there were no parking signs on Bennett Circle. This is mostly because it's a narrow road and there's really sharp turns, and if people park on the road, on the side of the roads there, they're actually in the road and the emergency vehicles can't get through and the school buses can't get through. There's concerns with some residents that there's a lot of Airbnb and short-term rentals down there, and the potential, there's not a lot of parking per unit. If a lot of people are going to these rentals, they're gonna be parked on, it's gonna be safe. So,
Vehicles will be towed.
right, but the thing with the towing is that we have to decide as a traffic authority how we're gonna manage the towing and how we're gonna manage the fining, and it has to go in ordinance. So if we're putting no parking signs up and we want them to get, like, we can put them up, but we can't really, if people park there, we don't have a way to enforce it
Unless we have an ordinance.
unless we have the ordinance. So, and in order to do the ordinance, we have to, in order to have a car towed, you have to have a pre-established relationship with a towing company, and you have to have to work out a place like where they can tow the car to, who's gonna pay for the car to be impounded. Is the town gonna take up the cost, or is the person gonna take up the cost? So that's all stuff we have to prepare ahead of time too, if that's what. So,
They pay.
Yeah.
You find out, ask the state police, you know, this 20, towing companies.
Yeah.
Get the same 20 names
Yeah.
and sit down and come out and pick up their car.
Yeah.
It's not a moneymaker for us, we just want the road clear.
So I looked up some ordinances from some other towns and I can put something together. If that's,
Let's get it on the docket to go with the late date.
so one of
Once you
the
come-
things,
There's a new marshal.
one of the things that we wanted to think of too, some of the ordinance I was looking at, they do no parking for a specific road, which I want this one to be no parking for Bennett Circle on the road, because that's where the safety concerns are. And then they have one for snow. no parking.
That's, I was gonna
so-
say, yeah, because
And that's a problem we have with the snow, so if we're gonna do a no parking for Bennett Circle, I would wanna add to that no park, when we have a no parking ban for a snowstorm, but this would,
and then the town just has to issue a no parking ban when a blizzard is expected.
yeah, and then
So that's how
anyone,
we recover.
yeah, and then anyone violating the no parking ban, this would be all over town, not just with subject to towing. Or fines, because public works know when there's cars.
Gonna be real popular.
You wanna do all this at the budget meeting?
Raising your taxes, for your car. So is our car.
So it's been nice being on the board of selectmen.
All right, so I'll have something for the no parking.
I think that with all this stuff, an honest explanation to people. I believe that there's always, it's in for a laugh. Never accept anything, but 20%.
And they will be the loudest.
When your kid needs an ambulance and they can't get the ambulance to your house because somebody's having a kegger, just remember how you voted. I mean, it's that simple. It's a matter of policy.
And that's really the only, as far as I can remember, that's the only road that's had problems with
It's a
the
bad road.
ambulance and the buses getting through.
Well, it's a bad road and it's a lot of Airbnb, so the number of cars is not consistent. It's up and down. Weekend over weekend.
They're rating those houses, you get 10 people up, guess what? There's 10 cars.
There's no parking.
Right, that's on the Airbnb.
Yeah.
So,
Are we
With
done yet?
50/50 tow company, that could be for a blade.
The last, saving the best for last.
Yep.
The avian influenza carcass composting. This is on the town website, it's been on there for a while. The state of Connecticut's looking for, in the event of an emergency declaration of an avian influenza attack at a major, chicken farm in London County. They're looking, there's 4 in London County. These are the major commercial chicken farms that a lot of the property, they don't, some of these chicken farms have spot on their property for their own composting in the event that they get hit with the flu. It's not enough room because they would have to kill their whole entire flock if just one tested positive. So they're looking for, the state's looking for other places to bring those carcasses. And they've come up with composting as their safest way of disposal. They said the burn facilities, that the amount of carcasses that would have to be burned, that the burn facilities wouldn't be able to do it. It has to be done in a timely manner. They would declare
How many barbecues?
they would declare an emergency and transport.
it would be like a fire yard fire.
Yeah, so they've come up with a composting. The state does own a piece of property on Brown Road. It's right next to the transfer station. It's a field right now. It used to actually be a composting site. And back in 98, 99, there were multiple lawsuits with that composting site.
Yeah, I thought that composting site actually facing transfer station was where all the old sheds were.
Some of it was.
I didn't realize they were also off to the right.
Yeah.
Steve was telling me.
Yeah. So some of it was there, some of it was on the other side. The state said that they knew that was mismanaged composting, and that the company was cited in violations of like,
That the government knows how to compost.
so.
So I'm guessing this is not an ask, this is oh, by the way, we're just letting you know.
Yeah.
Since it's our problem.
So, I asked a lot of questions, got some of the answers. It's still in the development phase, so it's not a yes, it's not a no.
Will they be notifying us when they start using it, or this is?
Yeah, they have
This is
to
out.
because it would only be used during, from what,
AI outbreak?
yeah, and it would be declared a national it would be a federal emergency because I think that it's like FEMA, it would be covered under FEMA, like all. Cause they have to transport everything down the road. It would be, everyone would know about it, it'd be a national emergency, so they can shelter their children.
So, as you just said, you're in a developmental stage, so it's a good time for us to start to ask some questions so that you can try and control the flow of this thing. So if there are 4 farms that raise chickens and some of them do their own composting on site, is the state telling us that none of them have the capacity to compost their entire block?
Right, none of them have the none of them have the capacity. And they wouldn't all, this is under, they're not thinking that they're all gonna have the flu at the same time. If even, like, I've learned a lot about avian influenza and about how to compost beef through this whole thing. Avian influenza is spread, usually this time of year when the birds are migrating up. It's spread through like their droppings.
Right, by
So,
migratory birds.
The chickens that are most at risk of catching this are chickens that are out there, not in shelters, that are outside. So it would depend on of those farms.
So those free range feeder friendly chickens got a problem.
Yeah,
Rather than the factory farms where everything's fully enclosed.
and it's also transported from like people, I think, too.
In the shoes.
So now's the time of year, but the actual avian influenza plan's been in effect since like 27.
Sure.
I don't know what they were doing. I don't know where they were planning on doing everything.
Well, Steve tells me they've been out looking at that field for the last 5 years.
Yes.
So they've been thinking about that.
Yeah.
My understanding is that the production sites, these facilities don't have just 100,000 birds. Typically,
Oh, they have like 6.
500,000,
Yeah.
I think is probably the number. So it's about 500,000 times 4, that's 2 million birds, that's an awful lot.
Yeah.
Composting to,
If they all hit at once, but if these
They're not
are,
all hit. They're expecting one to be hit. And they're not, this isn't the only site they're looking at, there's others too, so.
oh yeah, sure, I'm putting one in West Hartford.
Yeah.
Sure. But, you know, that field up there, this whole town is glacial till on top of ledge. So, you know, it's not like.
They don't vary it, it's composting on top, it's like hills of compost, they're not,
sales of rotting chickens.
yeah, it's not varied. Like what they do is they like cover them with sticks, bark, composting stuff.
Right,
But
but
they insist,
then they have heavy machinery that comes in,
they insist
And-
that,
turns it over, that's,
no, it stays, but the meat composting,
doesn't require a turning.
not from what they explained, because the meat, once the meat's covered, it gets to the composting temperature. It only takes 6 weeks for it to compost. Because the meat, once it's covered, it gets to a higher temperature and it decomposes, and that all makes it compost
And
faster.
smells just like roses.
But they said that the smell you won't smell it because it'll be
in
covered up.
Hartford.
So and I was like, do you realize we have like coyotes and we actually had a bobcat that got hit by a car. We had bobcats, like turkey vultures, like we have like everything out here that's gonna like.
It just, I would want a little bit more research.
Oh,
I'm not saying it's
no,
right to do it.
it's all online, you can read it. I said all the same things.
Right.
And this is all the stuff that he needs online with all their research in it, so.
But what I was thinking was, you know, if you had trenches and you just, you know, spread lime over them and backfill the trench,
Yes.
at least then it's encapsulated.
No,
It's
because
not
when they
gonna
come
stay.
back, they
It'll-
take it. After 6 weeks, they take it. It doesn't stay here.
They're selling it off for compost, right? That's the
Runs some
point.
compost,
Well, I added to my homework, meat composting, so.
They said 6 weeks, it's perfect, like the gold of compost.
The goal of compost.
I don't think so. When I was reading other news, it's saying backyard chicken compost, 3 months for one bird.
Good.
6 weeks.
6 weeks, 100,000 in 6 weeks.
That's what they said.
No, it's gonna be a slimy, you know, way in
I
6
know.
weeks. I mean, this is exactly what my work's for. Just kind of drop, you know, these giant trucks.
Wait, but you,
Leave them out.
But the master composter, it's all on
And then
him.
throw some mold or
say,
chips.
when this lawsuit was going on before, it was because the residents that were most affected with the smell were at Bailey Pond.
I know.
And
You look,
where I live, yes. And I made that quite clear to the city that, you know, this is my neighborhood's
The
one
first
that-
selectman will be the first person impacted, and there will be birds.
So, I've met with them several times and I've said everything I could possibly, questioned everything. So and Senator
But
Summers.
again, short of lawsuits, that this is them letting us know. This is not worth saying, sure, come on in. They just say, we're potentially doing this and we're just letting you
But we don't have to.
no, we shouldn't.
No.
Mm-mm.
And Senator Summers and I sent them a letter asking a whole bunch of questions. It's posted on the website and they haven't responded yet. So
Because it's some simple math, right? Okay, how big is a chicken? Well, I figured, you know, you probably get 4 dead chickens into 1 square, about 1 cubic foot. So if you had 400,000 dead chickens, that would take up a volume of
There's
100,000,
there's gonna be a lot of compaction.
100,000 cubic feet. Right? So that would require, if you did a trench, 100 feet long, 30 feet wide, 40 feet.
they have to have 12, I think they have to have 12 feet. If you look in the plans are all online too, there has to be a certain number of feet. They call them windrows. So they do the windrows, there has to be a certain number of feet in a row. I think there's only 8 feet. There's not a lot of land there, so the whole math of the thing is, it doesn't seem like it. They have a lot.
Can you send us the links?
It's all online on the website.
To Google meat composting, that's where I'm gonna start.
Is it on the state
It's
website?
on the town website. It's all on the town website.
Yeah.
Right on the homepage. All the stuff they sent me on there.
So. I do the homework, but there's 3 things that you said, Tracy, that stand out.
Just 3
Winter chicken dinner. This is the gold standard of composting. No, I'm not making fun of you. I am not making fun of you. Let me be very clear. Just take 2 cents. And then my favorite one has been the chicken shelter in place. So, yeah, I believe you. I believe you. Those are the things that stand out.
Because that is what I asked, because I said, listen, because they told me when they were gonna bring them here, that they have the route all planned, which I have to actually send them the weight restrictions, because I don't think they noticed that, and that, I don't know how they're gonna.
Right, so we're limited to 22 tons.
I think that.
Trucks weight.
Send them that they can't have trucks heavier than 22 tons, because they said that these were like tractor trailer trucks. So,
And, you know, if there's, 30 tons of chicken on one, 75-foot tractor trailer. All right.
Yeah.
They're all square.
but they did say that they were gonna be escorted by the National Guard because it's an emergency, and that if they'll, and I said, you do
And I understand
realize.
in this town, there are more gun capita than.
Yeah, and I also said, you do realize that like everyone in this town has chickens, so when you're telling me that you took the route to get from the farms to this location to bypass any other major chicken farms. So what about
So
all,
is the town going to have to issue a chicken shelter in place order?
all that have chickens? And they're like, well, they'll be notified. I'm like, they'll be. Like,
There's a registry of chicken owners?
Right?
emergency.
I don't think I'm on that list. Emergency.
Oh, okay, so
I have to bring
attention,
my chickens inside.
so attention, the wildfire in Exeter was the first thing other than an Amber Alert that scared the crap out of me, because 5 cell phones at home, they all went off. I'm like, what the hell is that?
And that's Tracy.
Bird flu and you're a chicken.
I said, we have a lot of masks in the basement.
Yep.
That are
Little
required.
masks, little chicken masks, that we'll have to stock up so we can issue those to all the residents who have registered their birds on the town chicken register.
Right.
What's the story? It's, you know, composting it. The idea of having about 40,000 dead chickens with some bark mulch thrown over the top of them and you're gonna self-compost.
Yeah, right. And no
6 weeks.
and no wildlife is gonna bother it, right?
These people are.
Wildlife.
The wildlife's gonna leave it completely alone.
Doesn't smell.
Sure, when does that happen?
Okay, so
So I'm pretty sure, I don't know, like, what that's gonna sound.
I just don't see that amount of dead meat carcasses rotting 6 weeks.
Right, and there's gonna be no rats and there's gonna be no vultures, none of that's gonna bother it, right?
No coyotes.
No coyotes, all the wildlife's gonna leave it completely alone.
Hazard as well as a health hazard in town. It's ludicrous idea that you dead chicken.
Mhm.
The only way to accomplish these things,
But there won't be like feathers flying out of the back of the trucks when it's dry.
the only way to do this environmentally and for health purposes, you know, they need to be buried in trenches. And that hard pan back there, they have to have a shitload of dirt on site.
Hmm.
Just bury these things.
Right.
Cover them with lime, and have to cover it with dirt. You know, dirt. So that all your coyotes and bobcats have a little pond. Come out.
getting fat, dumb, and infectious with avian influenza.
There's like everything out there. The bears haven't made it out there yet, but they will if they know there's free chicken.
Right,
Yeah, there were 3 bear sightings just this week,
right?
so.
I was watching the videos of the bears opening like buckets up, and they don't even get it.
Bobcats, fisher cats, foxes, bears, coyotes.
You know, maybe what we ought to do is get some dead chickens.
Do a little experiment.
Just like 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, and just start sending them up to whoever this is. In the agricultural department, just say, you know, this is what it smells like, one dead chicken, 400,000.
We started, so there's a name for that. Chicken body farm. Forensic units across the country have these,
Like don't.
they do,
Chickens?
no, with humans, but this would be a chicken body. This is so that they can get data, so when you find a body, you can date how long ago the body was killed. This is a big area of forensic research.
Yeah, the guys that started.
Yeah,
Maybe we could ask them to
so
come
we
to
can
Hollis,
have a chicken body farm.
The amount of maggots,
right?
flies,
Yeah,
after the smell,
Right, it's composted properly.
yeah, bullshit.
Which is just
And that's
covered with
what
bark. Yeah.
Sticks.
Okay, sticks.
Put sticks.
Okay, was there anything else?
But
I mean-
again, that's all on the town website, so.
We are at 7:40. This is far from the shortest Board of Selectmen meeting. I make a-
see what happens.
I make a motion to adjourn, so.
All in favor?
Aye.
I like our meeting.
I got 2 questions.